All right, we're going to get started. Good morning, everyone. Today we are going over our week 4 session, which is all about listings and paperwork. So why do we think it might be helpful to go over listings and paperwork if we don't have any listings right now?
Prepared when you do get one.
That's right. Absolutely. So today is super interactive, guys. I want you guys to participate, ask questions. I am not going to do all the talking today. So absolutely, we want to make sure that we're ready to go before we need to do it, right? So starting with listings, what is the scariest part, or what are you guys most afraid of if somebody were to call you today and they say, I want to list my house with you?
The agreement of sale, everything that you see in Command, like really almost all of those little documents that Command will show you that need to be completed.
No problem. You don't have to worry about that because you have me. And chances are the agreement of sale, you're not going to have to worry about until you get an offer, but we'll make sure that you are fully prepared. So have no fear. The nice thing is Command does let you know exactly which documents you do need. And you have myself as well as tons of different videos. So if something does come up, you are not alone. You have plenty of resources and plenty of support. What other things are you guys scared about with if someone called you and gave you a listing today?
For me, it's just not seeming like an expert, fear of not being able to answer a question, or being able to give them the best guidance that I feel like they deserve because I don't know what I don't know yet.
Absolutely. But guess what? I've been in this business for over 10 years and I still don't know everything. So it's okay not to know everything. The best thing you can possibly do is to just make sure that you follow up and you do get them answers to their questions. So if somebody asks a question and you're not sure, that's a great question. Let me write that down and I promise I will get back to you in 24 hours with an answer. Because it might be something that you're not qualified to answer. You might need to, offer them a resource, right? So if they have questions about something on the home inspection report, it might be better for the home inspector to answer that question, or it might be better for a contractor to answer that question. So don't feel like you have to know everything. You just have to have the best intentions and help them find the answer. And you're not alone, right? You can always call. Emerald, what fears do you have with if someone called you and gave you a listing today?
Am I on mute? Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Actually, I used to do interior design, so I feel like listing is going to be my strength. I'll be able to show and guide the seller exactly on how to maybe style the house so that it looks appealing to buyers. I can help with colors and different things because I feel as though before you can just put a house on the market, you need to invest a little bit into the house so that way you can get at least a good amount as far as when you're selling it.
Absolutely. Any fear around any parts of listing the house? Paperwork, negotiations, anything like that? Or are you like, I am ready to rock and roll. Send me that listing.
You know what, as long as you're a people person and you know how to talk to people and actually navigate them in the right direction, people want to know that you care about them. This is something that's important to them. They're getting ready to sell their home. So they need that caring factor that's behind it. So if you approach everything by the guidelines, following it strategically how you should, everything should fall in line. It's not nothing to really worry about. I guess it's just making sure that the process is executed correctly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing. Does anyone have any other questions or anything they want to share about what they are most scared about when it comes to listings? All right, then we will move on. So I'm going to
Hey.
share my screen. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
just thought of something else. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You know
no.
what would definitely make me really nervous? Making sure it's priced properly. Like I'd love to get a listing, but I feel a lot of trepidation in terms of, making sure it's a fair price.
Absolutely. And doing, what's called a CMA, a comparative market analysis, is definitely something that you're going to do regularly. And just know that there is no perfect price. What really dictates price is the market demand. So while a house next door might have sold for one price, doesn't necessarily mean that the house is going to sell at that price or more or less, because it might look different, smell different, get different light, have different furniture in it. So there's a lot of different factors that can come into it. Just like what Emerald said, we want to make sure that, we're providing our client with the best insight and advice so that the house can look the best, so it can show the best, so that they can hopefully get the most amount of money for that property. But there are definitely some basics in comparing homes that we can definitely go over. So no problem there. Any other questions about listings?
Dana, is there a, I guess, ideal time in the week, like to put it up on the MLS? Like, would it be bad to list it on a Sunday because those first few days are crucial, and then you've lost a majority of the weekend, like if you list it on a Sunday night, et cetera?
Great question. So it really depends on the market, and probably every agent will tell you something a little bit different. So one thing I always like to keep in mind are holidays, right? So if I have a new listing, might it be the best thing for me to list it on Christmas Eve, knowing that people probably have plans Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and might that be the most convenient for the sellers, especially if they live at home? So just being mindful, definitely, of holidays. You also want to talk and prepare with your seller about what to expect for showings. We know that the first 2 weeks, are the most crucial. We want our sellers to be the most flexible. So if there are certain times or days that we need to block off, we want to make sure we do that in showing time. So that way people aren't requesting showings and we're denying them. We're already prepared and having those times blocked out. So that way they can only make appointments on available time. But what I have seen is listing the house, ideally, when you put it on the MLS, that starts day one. So if you have a choice between putting a house on at night or the next morning, it might make more sense to put it on the next morning. So that way you have a full one day, right? Because if you put it on Sunday night, then starting Monday, it's already 2 days on the market. So that might just be one little tip. Consider trying to put it on, during the day or first thing in the morning of the day. So that way you get the full one day on market. The other thing is I have found listing a home midweek, say like a Wednesday or a Thursday, does set you up for success, especially with open houses. So if I have a choice to list a house Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, chances are maybe I would let other Keller Williams agents know I have a coming soon listing, or maybe I'll put the house on coming soon because that does not count days on markets. But my personal preference, I tend to list homes on Tuesday and Thursday. That way it usually takes a day or two for it to hit like Zillow, Realtor.com, and some of these other sites that pick off of BrightMLS. So that way I can gear it up, because I always really like to be able to do open houses as soon as I list the home. So, and that tends to have the most amount of showings, the most amount of excitement and desire is when a new house is listed. But no, there is not like one day you have to pick. So it really kind of depends on holidays, time of year, what your seller is available for. But some of my personal best practices, I like to list on Wednesday or Thursday. have open houses either Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And hopefully, you know, if it's priced well, get some offers in to be presenting to my sellers.
So if you had everything you needed ready to go to list and it was a Saturday afternoon, would you wait until the next Tuesday so you get like a full weekend, or do you not want to wait?
So it's up to you. If your client is like, no, I'm ready, like do an open house on Sunday, like let's get this going, you can put it on the market. If she is not ready, because remember, once you go live, people are going to want to start booking showings because it's brand new. It's something new on the market. So you really just want to make sure your seller is prepared.
Okay.
Great questions, guys. All right, so going over week 4, listing prep. So we're going to touch on Bright, Command, and touring. And by touring, I mean showing time and doing tours of the property that you would be listing. The listing contract, I'm going to briefly go over this. Vicki Carey, our broker, does an excellent job going over the seller and buyer paperwork packet that is available on YouTube. Bright CMAs and sold searches, I'll make sure you guys know how to do that in Bright. You as the agent are responsible for writing the description that goes in Bright. So I do recommend taking photos during your touring and any notes, and then how to schedule photography. We do have an in-house photographer, Jeremy, and his team. And as Keller Williams agents, we do get a discount on photography. They do photography, they do videography if your clients want video. They can do virtual tours as well. So a lot of different components that they can do. So we will touch on all of those. So first thing we're going to start in is Bright. So hopefully you guys have seen and know what is Bright. Has everyone logged into Bright and has a Bright login account? Okay, perfect. If you don't, please let me know so that way we can make sure we get you set up, because you will be using this every day. So when we log into Bright, anytime I have a listing, someone calls me, whether it's a friend or referral, I want to make sure first and foremost that I am talking to the owner of the property. And question usually is, how do I figure this out? Does anyone have any ideas?
Public records.
Absolutely. So if I search public records, if I go to search, right over here, it's public records. And now I can type in that property address. So say it's 1008 Daly Street. I see there is one match. I go to results and I'll bring up the property and it'll say that the owners are Dana Friedman and Kevin M. Waddy. So I want to make sure that I am talking to those people. Now I see there are 2 names listed. Say I am only talking to Dana. Who needs to sign the paperwork? Can only Dana sign the paperwork, or does anybody else need to sign the paperwork?
Kevin would need to sign as well.
That's right. Anybody that is listed on the deed as owners needs to sign. So if something happens, like say somebody has passed, right? And it's the granddaughter calling you, who do you think then would be the one to sign? Or what question might you ask the granddaughter?
Whether or not she's the executor of the estate and has the authority to sign.
Absolutely. Great job, Jen. So we want to make sure whoever is the executor or the executrix, or if it's multiple people, we want to see that estate document that says, you know, who is legally allowed to sign the paperwork. So that is who we'll need. You'll also need the estate documents for the title It's also good to ask if they have a copy of the death certificate of the person who is listed on the deed, because title will need that as well. So once we verify, yep, that's who I'm talking to, I'm gonna look at the property. Now, no, not all houses may have photos. Some may not have photos because it may not have been listed. But if it does, at least it gives you some basis of an opportunity to look at some previous photos. You can also check out the map so you have an idea of where the property is located. I always like to verify the taxes. Is this, the correct taxes? We do know we're going into a new tax year. So, 2022, have they gotten any updates on their taxes? Are they staying the same, or have they gone up, or have they gone down? I also like to verify, it says here that there are 2 bedrooms and 1 full bath. So I always want to verify, is that information correct? Have they made any improvements to the house? This could be adding bathrooms, changing flooring, putting on additions, updating kitchen or appliances. So any of those kind of things that I can know up front are really going to help me be prepared to know when I'm comparing this house to other houses that have sold in the neighborhood. I don't want to compare this house to something that has an original, 1960s kitchen, because it's very, very different. Does that make sense? So once I have all that, I can see if the property has ever been listed before down here in the MLS history. I can see it was previously rented. And I can see that, they probably purchased it in 2015. So that gives me some basic idea. When I look at sale and mortgage tab, this will again kind of give me some insight into whether or not there may be a mortgage on the property. So I can see, back in, 2020, there was a refinance, and chances are they probably still have a mortgage if they just did this refinance in 2019. Now, if this said 1999, again, I might want to verify and ask if they do have a mortgage. I might also want to ask if they have a home equity line of credit. Sometimes people forget that they have that, but any kind of lien on the property will need to be paid off at settlement. So it's just good to double check those questions. So once I have an idea about that, now I am able to kind of get prepared for, meeting my clients and doing the walkthrough. So I have the basics of info about the property. I ask, what day is and time is convenient so that I can come over and preview the property with them. And then that's called setting your listing appointment. So once you have that date and time set, the next part is we're going to start to get together some of the comps. So I have an idea of the location, how many beds and baths. So now I know kind of what to look for. So I recommend either doing a second screen, right? Like saving this so I can go back and look. So I know this house, that square footage is not correct. This is the correct square footage here. So a little over 1,000 square feet, 14 feet wide. And this house actually has 2 beds and 2 full baths, not 1. And then I see, it has a nice updated kitchen. It's a corner row home, has a dishwasher, hardwood floors, central air. So I'm just quickly flipping through some, French doors out to a back patio area. So just to get an idea of kind of what this house looks like and what are some of like the main features of the house. The front bedroom, laundry upstairs, big bathroom with a tub, another bedroom, another bathroom in the basement, big basement, parking. So that's an added feature if a house has parking. So there's value to that. So when I'm looking at my houses, I might not be able to find something that is exactly like this, but I need to keep in mind kind of some of those features. So I'm going to go to residential sale because now I'm looking for things that have sold that are similar. I'm going to put in the property address. But now when I come down to status, I'm going to uncheck the coming soon and active and check pending and closed. You'll see when it says closed, it's from 0 to 180 days. 180 days is a very long time. And we know that the market was very different even just 3 months ago. But 180 days is even further back. So I tend, depending on the location and how many options there are, I tend to look at 90 days. It's going to be a little bit more realistic in terms of the demand for the market. When I go back 180 days, we're talking 6 months ago. So it was spring. It was a hot market, which is very different right now, November going into December. So it's always something you have to be mindful of. So I can see I have 10 matches just looking at the past 90 days, within 0.1 miles of this area. So I might want to expand it a little bit more. Now, no, if you're in the city, it's a lot denser. So you're going to get a lot more options versus if you're in the suburbs, you might have to go further out. Does that make sense to everyone? Awesome. So I know I at least want to make sure that the houses I'm comping have 2 bedrooms or more, because this house has 2 bedrooms. The main things that an appraiser is going to look at are going to be what things? Anyone have any ideas? What are some of the things an appraiser might look at when they're looking at comps?
Beds, baths, square footage, area.
Absolutely. So those are kind of some of the same features that we're going to look at. When you represent a seller, it's your responsibility to make sure the value is there. So if you are listing a home and your client is adamant that they really want to list it at a higher price, it is in your best interest to prepare them and let them know that if somebody offers you this amount of money, there may not be comps to justify it, and we may have an appraisal issue. So just things to be very, very mindful of. If no house has sold over 400,000 and your client really wants to list at 450, just something to be mindful of. All right, so we're just looking 2 bedrooms or more within 0.25 miles that are pending and closed. So I can see I have 51 matches. You can also add some other details down here. I prefer to start pretty broad and then narrow down those options. One thing though that I do want to add is it does have central air. I know in South Philly, that is not always common. So you can see just by switching the yes central air, that changes from 51 to 32 matches. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go through and look at all these different things that came up. So if I click on distance, it's going to organize them from closest to furthest so I can kind of compare. Now, again, some of these 3 bedrooms may or may not work, but something we have to be mindful of. Because remember, 2 bedrooms aren't necessarily as common. So I'm just going to literally go through, take a look at some of the photos. I know being in South Philly, there's a big price difference being south of Snyder versus north of Snyder. I also know there's a difference, east of Broad, west of Broad. So make sure you're mindful of the different boundaries and if pricing changes in different areas of different neighborhoods. So I can see this has an extra bedroom, 1 less bathroom, and about 200 square feet more. Similar brick, but it does look like it's been updated. This kitchen isn't quite as nice. It's a little bit smaller. It does have radiator heat, not central heat. So, you know, pluses and minuses in my head, I'm thinking. So, you know, similar location, only has one full bath, and it is a little bit dated. Does have 3 bedrooms though. Did not show me any of the backyard space, but it did close in November. So relative to kind of like the market. So this is probably going to be on the lower end of my range. So if I choose to keep it, I'll check it. And again, I'm just going to go through all these listings to see, like, does this make sense as a comp or does it not? And I do that just by checking out the photos, reading the descriptions, you know, seeing if it's similar beds, baths, square footage. Would this be something that is similar to my house or not? This is a much more updated kitchen, similar to mine. So I would say, you know, and this is a little bit more money. So, but it does have 3 bedrooms, so an extra bedroom, but 1 less bathroom. So all things, you know, considered, I'm just kind of trying to figure out that range, right? So what would be kind of the lower end and what would be kind of the higher end comparable to my house? Does that make sense to everybody? And then I kind of bring that information to my seller and I say, you know, here's a house that is like completely all done out and this is the top dollar, you know, and this is a house, you know, that has a lot of similar features, but on the lower end. Here's the price range that we're looking at. You know, to be most competitive, I would suggest we're somewhere in the middle. 9 times out of 10 though, the seller is like, no, let's go at the higher end. But if you have comps that justify it, you at least know that you won't have an appraisal issue if you're in, you know, that value. If somebody wants to go above that value though, that's where you have to be mindful and kind of educate your client, you know, to what might happen if, you know, somebody brings an offer to us that is much higher, and what appraisal issues, you know, might happen.
So
Any questions about that?
I'm sorry. So are you only pulling just how many comps are you actually pulling to show your seller? Like for this example, you did 2, so 1 on the lower, 1 on the high end, but how, like in actuality, how many are you actually pulling for them?
It really depends on what's available and on the market. Ideally, I like to have at least 3, but in best situations, I'll have 5 to 6 just to kind of have that range to get like a better price description, because doing a CMA, it'll actually break down like side-by-side comparisons. So the more I have, the more data I have, the more efficient it looks to the seller. But sometimes there's just not enough, you know, on the market to really compare to, especially if you're going out like in the suburbs. You know, it can be hard to sometimes find something that's an exact similar comp. And there might not be as many homes that have sold in the past 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Great question. So yeah, so I'll go through, try and kind of find some similar homes. You know, this one's much dated. But once I kind of select my few homes, let me see, let me get one more here. I know that home, I've been in it. So this. Also, be mindful, guys, like this, see how it says B? If something is a single family, you can't use a condo to comp it. It has to be similar. Same thing, if you're doing a condo, you need condo comps, not single family comps. So just be mindful of that. All right, so I have my few. So if I go to agent 1 line display, you can see the blue ones are the ones I selected. If I go to refine and then narrow, it'll narrow down to just the ones that I've selected. So you can see I have a little bit of a range, 325, 324, 280, 290. So I have that range from 280 to 325. Once I've selected that, yep, these are the comps I want to use, I'm going to go to actions, and then you can see a button right here that says CMA. When I do that, it's going to ask me to select a contact. Now, if this is the first time you're doing it, you might not have any, so you'll need to create a new contact. You'll put in a name, first, last, and an email. If you already have someone, you can just select it from your list here. And then description, I usually just write comps for the property address. And this is, just so I can find it when I go back and look at all my CMAs that I've done. Pages, this will be, there's tons of different pages. The selected pages are because I've done a few. So these are my defaults. This is what I like and the order that I like them in. But again, you can choose different ones. You can select cover. It'll add the different, there's two. There's a cover sheet with a border and just a plain cover sheet. I prefer the one with the border, but you can add different ones and you can reorder them. So if I want to move this up, I can switch it, the order, which is really nice. But I recommend dive into this, just play around and mess with it. That's the best way you're really going to get to know it. Next, I go to subject. And it's going to ask me, okay, what is your listing house? What's the subject house? I like to search for it in public records just because that's the easiest for me. I know the property address. I can just type it in, hit results, say, yep, that's the one. I check it, fill in from selected. It'll bring up any of the information that MLS currently has. If there's not a property photo, take one from Google or go to the property ahead of time and snap a picture. So that way you have a picture for your CMA. Does that make sense? If you know any of the information needed to be updated, like this had 2 full baths and 2 bedrooms, just make sure that you have the correct information listed in here. If everything else looks good, you'll move on to the cover. So this is going to have your client's contact info and then your agent info. So really important, guys, make sure you filled out your info in your profile on Bright because that's where this pulls from. Next, it's going to go to my comparables. So I've already done the hard work because I've already done my comps. So it's just pulled them right over. I'm going to check that I want to use all of those. Next, I'll look at my map. This will be the map and it'll show my subject house, which is the blue one, and then all of my comps. So the red have closed and the orange is a pending one. This is the adjustments tab. So it's showing you kind of like the difference. It has all of them listed and then low, median, average, and high for the pricing. When I go to pricing, this is where I can write any information. So suggested list price. So if I know the low is 280, the high is 325, I could say I suggest a listing price of 320 based on these comps. And any other descriptions you want to add, you can tag in here as well. And then I'll hit finish. The nice thing is this does a really beautiful presentation for you. I always recommend to view your CMA before you send it to your client. Just make sure all the information is correct, their name is spelled right, you selected the right properties. I typically will email this to them just before I go. So if my appointment is, say, Thursday at 1 o'clock, I'll probably email this to them Thursday morning. And then I will also bring a hard copy with me.
Dana, where did you initially go to in Bright?
Yep, I will go back and show that. So it all started with searches, residential sale, and I looked at sold houses in the neighborhood. So now I have this pretty packet all done for me. You can see it's 29 pages long, so it can be a little long, but it looks really professional. It has my maps and all of my beautiful pages comparing everything. I didn't have to do any math on my own. It did price per square footages for me. So it just puts together a really, really nice presentation, side-by-side comparisons. People love this. So highly, highly recommend to utilize this. And then again, I can download it and email it to my client. So how did I do this? Again, I went search, residential sale. I selected first all of my comps. So I changed it to closed and pending. Once I selected which ones I wanted to use. Come on, internet. Then I went to this button here under Actions, CMA. All right. Any questions about how to do a sold search and put together the CMA?
No, but I do have a question about when you were speaking of the owners. I actually have a situation that is going on right now where a member of the family has passed. The brother and sisters own the property. However, the brother is in Paris and the sister's in Arizona. The property is here in Pennsylvania, and the person that was in the property, she's passed. How would you go about, I guess, even getting through title because the family being so far away?
So it's not a problem because we have DocuSign. So everyone can sign everything via DocuSign. They don't have to be in person. If you have specific questions because somebody is deceased, so are there multiple people on the deed?
Yes, their mother left them the property when she passed. And one of the sisters was living in the property. However, she passed last year. So now the other sister is trying to sell the property, but the brother is in Paris.
Okay, but everyone is cool with the house being sold?
For the most part, yes.
Okay, so we have a great in-house title company, Go Abstract. I would recommend getting them involved just so you can make sure that if anything needs to be signed, any authorizations or power of attorneys, that is handled ahead of time so that you don't have the headache later. Once you have the property listed and it goes under contract, you know exactly who needs to sign and how they need to sign it.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. So that will bring me to quickly go over our dashboard. So everyone has free access to this. This is our Keller Williams Market Center dashboard. So you can go to this at any time. It's updated regularly. It's agents with an S, kwphiladelphia.com. It always has our monthly training calendar as well as our YouTube channel. If you do need any of the contacts for anybody at our office, you can see we have our in-house lender, Mortgage Collective, Go Abstract, Finance of America. They're all listed right up here. Customer First Insurance. So if anyone needs renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance, they can go here. Take Me to Closing for transaction assistance. And then America's Preferred is our home warranty. So if you need to contact any of those people, just know that's all their contact is available right here for you guys. So Go Abstract, if we click on it and it wants to work, you'll see concierge at goabstractservices.com is the best email address to use. So that's who I would reach out to. Also, I had mentioned photography and videography. So that is listed right over here. If we click on it, it'll take you to Jeremy's website, myphiladelphiaphoto.com. You'll want to connect with Jeremy. His email is media@kwphiladelphia.com. That way he can set you up with a login and password. You'll receive 25% off all photography and videography. So this is how you would go and be able to schedule a shoot for your listing. The other thing I want to point out is your blank form. So if we go down here to blank documents by state and PA forms, I highly recommend printing out a copy of the listing contract when you're going to watch Vicki Carey's video to go over how to fill it out and what it needs to say. So if you come here, it has tons of different files, but the one that you're going to be most concerned with is the listing contract. But all copies of PDFs are available to you guys for free here. So right here, listing contract, seller agency agreement. Highly recommend downloading this so you can make sure you have it when you watch her video to go through how to fill it out. So company brokerage, this is Keller Williams Philadelphia information, and then this should be your information as the licensee. You would fill out your seller's name, the mailing address, phone number, and email. This is really important, especially if you have clients, multiple clients, right? Like Emerald mentioned, someone's in Paris, someone's in Arizona, you know, who is who and how is best to get in contact with them. So we want to have their information listed on here, as well as the property information. Everyone always asks, what should be the end date for my contract? It's really going to depend on the client. It can be 1 day, it can be 1 year, it can be 5 years. So it can be whatever the seller and you agree upon. But at a bare minimum, you know, if this person is serious about you listing their house, you know, you'll want to do the research to know what's the average days on market. And that would be like the bare minimum that you would want, you know, your contract to be for. So right now, you know, let's just say in South Philly, average days on market is going to be about 45 to 50 days. So I would want my contract to be at least 60 days long, and we can always extend it if needed. But typically, if I put it on the market, an average buyer can't close shorter than 30 days with a mortgage. Chances are, you know, it's going to go on the market. And if they put in an offer, you know, say week 1, you know, that's already going to be 35 to 40 days long. So I want to make sure that my contract is covered during that listing period. The other thing that people always ask is the broker's fee. There is no set fee that we have to charge or should charge. In our industry in Philadelphia, typically we see 6%. And remember, that is split between the buyer's agent and the listing agent. So 3% goes to the listing side and 3% goes to the buyer side. A lot of times we also charge a broker service fee. This is so that we can bring on Take Me to Closing for transaction management to help us assist once we get the house under contract. So that's a $395 fee that I pass along and charge my client. Any questions about the listing contract? Yep.
Yeah, so for that broker's fee, I was wondering, like for stuff like the photography, you're doing open houses, the marketing, is that stuff that you could figure out a way to put into the broker's fee also? Depending on what
you just need to justify it. So as a realtor, remember, you're running a business. You are going to have some expenses that you are going to have to pay up front, because remember, you don't get these fees until settlement day. So, you know, something to be mindful of. I do pay for all of the photography because as a realtor, I find, you know, those are my photos. If you charge your clients and you say, I'm charging you for photography, well, now really those are their photos. So something to be mindful of. Great question. So the other thing I want to point out, guys, is your command. Hopefully all of you have logged into command. So when you log in, this is your home page. You know, when you get an opportunity, right? You're talking to someone, they say they're interested in selling their house. first thing you should do, go to their contact and create an opportunity. So that way you don't forget, right? And we get that paperwork started. So let's just say that it was Adele who called me. She is the one who's interested in selling her home. I'm going to go over here to opportunity, and I'm going to create an opportunity. Opportunity type, this is a listing. It'll show my client name and the opportunity name. You'll want to put the property address in front of your client's name. This makes it easier for the accounting team when they go to pay your commissions to find your transaction, as well as me, because I will be able to see your transactions. So if you call me and say, hey, I want you to look over my paperwork for 123 Main Street, but you don't have 123 Main Street as the opportunity name, I can't find it. So I don't know all your clients' names. So put the property address in. If you happen to know an estimated close date, we typically don't in the beginning when we're first getting started. And again, we might ask our clients approximately how much money are they hoping to get for their house. But again, we can always change this. The commission rate, this is going to be your commission rate. So let's say it's 3%. And we're working on an appointment and we're scheduling that appointment. And I'm going to hit create. Any questions how I just created this opportunity? I know I went a little quick. All right, so if I click on the opportunity, the great thing about this, it really does streamline it for you. I know it can be frustrating at first because it's new and it's weird and it's different, but if you do it consistently, I promise it'll become so much easier for you. You'll want to put in the property info over here with this little pencil. So again, this isn't a real property. I'm just making it up. So we'll just say it's that. Hit save. So now I can see the property is in there. I'm going to want to go to documents. The first thing it's going to ask me is what kind of checklist. So when I go over here, I'm going to select a checklist, and this is a Pennsylvania residential listing. You'll see then it will create me different folders. So for my listed, these are the required documents that I have signed: the affiliated business disclosure, the seller's estimated closing costs, the listing contract, lead-based paint disclosure. What is the important date related to the lead-based paint disclosure?
78.
1978.
That's right. Anything that was built before 1978, we need a lead-based paint. If it's new construction, you do not need it. But we do need a seller's property disclosure. Again, unless it is brand new construction. If it's a renovated property, you do. If it's new construction from 3 years ago, you do. But if nobody has ever lived in it, it's brand new, like from a builder, you might not have a seller's property disclosure. And then of course the consumer notice. All of these things are what we need to have signed before we put it in the MLS, before we put it in Bright. Any questions? Yep.
If you end up listing for a price other than the listing, what you wrote in the listing contract, because you convinced them that it's not a realistic number or whatever, do you then have to redo the seller's estimated cost with that updated number?
So you can do it
since that's just an estimate. Was that okay?
On the estimate or on your listing contract?
On the estimate. The estimated
on the
cost.
estimate, you can always update that and have them re-sign it.
Do you need to, or is that just a?
So you don't need to, but I do it to cover my butt, especially if I do it for less, because I want to make sure that they're agreeing to like their new net price. You'll do it again when you go under contract with like the actual price that you're under contract for, because a lot of times that changes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
See right here, it says updated sellers estimated closing cost. So if I listed the house for 400, but we went under contract for 380, this, I'll do my new one for 380 here. Great question. So it is so helpful, guys. Don't wait till the end. Do all of this paperwork before you put it in the MLS. It will make your life so much easier. Plus, you'll have your seller's property disclosure and lead-based paint disclosure available to any and all of the buyers.
Dana, quick question.
Yeah.
Good amount of time to give your seller to fill out the seller's disclosure?
So I bring it with me, a blank copy with me when I do my walkthrough. And I say that I need this back in order for me to list the property. So if they get it done in one day, I'm happy to come back and get it in one day, or they can email it to me, but I need that filled out, ideally before I put it on the MLS. Great question. Any other questions? No?
So sorry, I had a question. So just to go back to the comps, like you said, it can be quite long. That one was like 29 pages. Essentially, what key points are you highlighting within the 29 pages? Or are you going through literally everything so your seller has an idea?
Great question. So I don't. I just kind of leave it there for the client to kind of have and review. I'm going to know kind of what my comps are. And if you think about it, the only thing they really, really care about is price.
Right.
So great thing to ask is, ideally, what price are you hoping to get for your house? How much money do you owe on your house? And how serious are you about selling this house, right? You need their buy-in. If they love the house, right? They're probably not going to be as willing and ready, to sell it. So emotionally preparing them also to sell the house is really important, right? And setting the expectations. The day we put the house on the market, it's no longer your house. It's the new buyer's house, right? So we need to be open to showings, making sure it looks the best, right? Making sure beds are made, dishes aren't left in the sink. If pets are in the house, that, it smells nice and fresh. Maybe we light candles before showing. All those like really important features. There are some really great pages in the CMA if people do have questions like, why is, it's 6%? You can show them the sheet that breaks it down where that money goes to. So Dana Friedman doesn't get all 6% of this money. It's split between all these different people. If they have some questions about showing, there's a really great page in there that goes over how to best prepare for a showing. So highly recommend, pick a property, do a CMA, and do that packet today. So that way you get practice, since we just went over it. Look through the packet, read all the different pages, because again, you might not like all the pages. You might be like, I want to use this one, but not these. So make it your own. But there is some really, really great stuff. I typically don't personally dive into the CMA packet that much. I just kind of leave it there in a folder for my sellers, along with the seller's property disclosure and the lead-based paint disclosure that I need them to fill out. And ideally, I'm having them sign the listing contract when I'm there. So that way I know they're serious and we can get rocking and rolling. Great questions, guys. All right. What else you got?
Were you going to go over scheduling showings?
Sure, we can do that. So once you have a listing, let me screen share again. Are you talking about for previewing?
For showing, for showing time once it's listed.
Okay, so once it's listed, so everyone agreed, everything's signed, we got photos taken, listing is live. Hopefully Bright will want to work for me here and show you the listing. It's a little tired this morning. There we go. Come on, Bright. So I have one here. So when you put it in, it'll show you the list of all your different listings. So mine is right here. Let's see. If I click on more, I can go to showings. This will then take me into showing time. And in here, I can put who needs to be contacted. So myself, if there's any co-listers, and then the owner. And then what type of showing. So go and show means that they can request it and immediately will be given a code and they can show it. Appointment required means that somebody like myself or the owner has to confirm that appointment. So it's going to depend on, if is the person living there, is the house vacant, what type of one you will select. Typically, if it's vacant, it's go and show. If somebody lives there, typically we do an appointment. You're going to identify how we're going to be notified of those appointments. If you're going to allow inspections and walkthroughs, I recommend hitting yes, as well as yes for appraisals. And then how much notice. So if it's vacant, some people don't care. They say people can come right away. If somebody's living there, though, they might want more notice. So they might want 8 hours notice or 24 hours notice. So you can select how much notice is needed, as well as the appointment length, a minimum and a maximum. So some people are like, I don't want people hanging around my house, right? Or if it's brand new, you want to be able to let as many people come in at a time. Usually the maximum I do is between 30 minutes and an hour. So you can adjust this however is needed. And then if there's any days you want to block off, you can add a showing rule. So if they say we don't want showings Mondays, you can select an entire day. So like an all day rule, and I can just write not available. And then if it's one time, like just this Monday, I would select that date. If it's every Monday, I would do repeat rule and just check off Mondays. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to put the access info. So if it has a lockbox, I will put combination. If somebody is going to personally let them in, like the seller or a tenant, or if I have to personally be there and show it. So who's going to provide the access? If it's a lockbox, I'll put the combo and where it is located, as well as any notes. And if there's an alarm, yes or no. If there is, I'll need to put the code. If there's not, I'll write no. Notes for showing agent. So if there's anything in particular, like you want someone to contact one specific agent, or if it's like there's a dog, don't let the dog out, anything like that, any little notes, you can always put those in there for the showing agent. Does that make sense?
Dana, what's a good amount of lock boxes to have?
So I always keep 3 in my car. You can buy them at like Lowe's or Home Depot. You can even put them on something like Amazon and get them in bulk. We also have, let's see if they put it in here, right here, KW branded lock boxes. If you go to the dashboard, that'll take you to this supplier, mfssupply.com. They're already branded. If you order 1 to 5, they're $21 each. If you order 6 or more, the prices start to go down. But these are really great lock boxes. They tend to not freeze. I highly recommend them, but just know it will probably take about, 10 business days for them to come in, sometimes faster, but you won't have them like tomorrow. If you need something tomorrow, probably want to go to Lowe's or Home Depot. But if you have time and you're like, let me order a few now, highly recommend getting the branded ones.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. If you guys need anything, let me know. Highly recommend, if you're thinking about doing open houses this weekend, take a look on the Facebook group. Or if you need help finding a house, let me know. I'll be happy to connect you with someone who has some listings available. All right, have a great day.
All right, Anna, thank you.